Bagaetso go ga ke le dumedisa fa le dumedisa ke moratsipane mora matlaopane mosimana go mago mosimana taung ke ala mogala mo Gospel Chats with Neo. Gompieno ana ke go nna le one of the best producers that I like. I'm just gonna say that one of the best pianists that we have in the country. He's blessed with chords. He's blessed when it comes to producing and boards. He goes by the name Joseph N. Makola. I wish we can know what does the N stand for. But but then before ka utlwa Joseph Makola ke batla le bone gore mo nakong e fitileng go diragetseng mo nakong e fitileng re le tshwaretseng. Just take a look at what happened on Gospel Chats with Neo.
So I actually recorded an EP, like you're saying. It's 2 songs. One is called Kuzodlula, where we are bringing hope to the nation during this time of distress.
You know, want to see if we can do shows in winter because we want to do outdoors. Yeah, so this year we are releasing 2 books, so it's going to complete 10 books.
o monate wa piano, wa keyboard, the board. That just like they say, the young cats out there, they call it the board. So our guest today is going to tell us why do they call it the board. But then he's not a young cat; he's a big cat. His name is Joseph Makola. Some of you know him. He has done a lot of work out there. He has produced a lot of albums. I can name 5, 6, 10. I mean, he has done Dr. Doom. He has done Bishop Benjamin, the late Nainzimu, Spirit of Praise. Recently, he has done with Brilliant Baloyi. My guy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
GospelChatsWithNeo.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you are a very, very difficult man to get hold of. I mean, before we can get started, how do you do it when young people are on social media? There's no Joseph Makola there.
It's not complicated, man. We didn't have social media 15 years ago, so and we were doing okay. So, same idea, just flow with it.
Yeah. You are a producer, you are a board player, you are a PK.
Oh, yeah.
From a whole Christian background, your name is Joseph from the Bible.
Yes.
Can we just look back at how it started before you could play boards?
Yeah, it started with me being born, which is really a good place to start. But yeah, I think the story is always the same, just told by different people. It says born into a musical family, raised in the church, and somehow you find an instrument or a vocal ability, and out of
wake
that
up at
you
3 a.m., the Lord gives you a song.
Okay, I'm not. I don't wake up at 3 a.m. So yeah, me and the Lord don't have that kind of relationship of 3 a.m. But yeah, but essentially I was born in a church, in a family that loves music. My dad was big on all kinds of gospel music. So so that's why it's often strange to people that I know a lot of non-Bedi hymns, but by the way, I'm Bedi.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of acquainted with Xhosa hymns, Zulu hymns, a bit of Venda and Tsonga hymns. So it's really being brought up in an environment that embraced a wide variety of gospel music. I know groups that are strange to people. Like I used to grow up listening to a group called Amapoisa Sulundi. It's a KZN group. It was crazy amazing. Most people don't know about it. Listening to obviously Derek Nzimande. That one was very popular. There was Jimmy Swaggart. There was Shirley Caesar. There was Kirk Franklin. There was wide range of people. Franz Dlamini from Swaziland before Nandwini came in and other people like that. So it was the space, I think, that kind of triggered the thinking and the interest.
Your name is Joseph. Any specific or any motive behind the name?
Yes, motive is not a word I would use, but there's a link between my name and the Joseph in Genesis. So there's about 14 referenced Josephs in the Bible.
14?
Yeah, so most people know 2.
Yeah, I'm shocked also.
Oh yeah, yeah. Others are hidden in the genealogies. You won't find them like directly.
Yes.
There's actually a guy called Joseph who was auditioning for the role of replacing Judas Iscariot. He didn't get the gig, by the way. So, and there's he was trying to fit in, and it didn't work out for him. And then there's obviously the other famous Joseph is Joseph of Arimathea, the one who was the wealthy aristocrat who took Jesus. But there's about 14 of them. So for clarity, I was specifically named after the Joseph in Genesis, the governor of Egypt. So actually, my full name is Joseph the Dreamer in English. Yeah. So it's.
So what does the N stand for? If it's Joseph the Dreamer.
The N was an accident. It's a typo, so don't worry about it. It's a long explanation.
We'll never find out what the N stands for, but I guess maybe one day we will find out.
One day, yeah. It's not a name, it's a story. Yeah. So.
Out of all the instruments, you went for a board.
Yes.
What's so special about it?
It was the first one that was available.
Was it the Roland EO90?
No, way before that. There was a Casio that my dad bought before I was born. Back when Christians didn't like keyboards. They said it's kirikatara. Yeah. Yeah, so when he searched the scriptures, he didn't find any objection, so he bought it. But, it wasn't yet allowed in church. So when I was born, I found it. So it was the first one I found. So for the first my first encounter with live drums was when I was already in high school. That was very late in life, so it was circumstantial. I think if I had an exposure to all the instruments, I probably would have been a drummer.
Yo, okay, disclaimer, guys, I'm a fallen drummer. It's a story for another day.
Not fallen. Yeah, it could have been. It could have been drummer.
I know, but it's kind of easy.
Yeah.
Playing drums and the boards.
No, it's not easy. It is totally.
For me, it is easy.
Not even. It's a lot more sophisticated than it comes across.
In what way?
You have to realize that when you're playing drums, all your limbs are working at the same time, and they have to be independent. So you have to be able to play one rhythm pattern with one hand. Another thing that's entirely different with this, and another thing with your foot.
With your foot, and
another with your other. Yeah, so it's a very sophisticated. There's actually an interesting thing that drummers do to test your independence. I still can't do it, where you spin your hand like this, and then you spin this one like this. If you can pull that off, you're probably close to becoming a decent drummer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, at least I've learned something.
You can try it at
even
home.
though I've been tired. What was your first gig? I mean, your first breakthrough, because I met you in 2017.
Yeah, 2017.
I mean, that was at the Dome, the first recording of Gathering of the Saints.
Yeah.
That's when we first met. So, at the Gathering of Worshippers, not of Saints,
Yeah.
of Worshippers. Yeah, so that was when we first met. But then, that has been too long for you. Like, you have been in the industry for way back. I mean, you've played with the late Ney, as I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
Who gave you that platform? Okay, Josie, here is a gig for you. I trust you to work on this.
That's a complicated question to answer, because how these things work is that, especially in my case, I wasn't trying to be a musician.
But you were in IT, or you studied IT?
I studied IT, so I wasn't trying to be a musician. So every opportunity for me to do music was a big step. It wasn't like there's a moment I can point to and be like, see, this is the moment that set me up. Everything I was doing was a series of moments which were linking, and each one becoming more and more intense than the next, and all of them leading me to where I am now. And which is why also it's a bit tricky, because it's hard to know if you've arrived where you're going if you were not planning to come here in the first place. So in my case, I think when I started doing interactive stuff, I was doing music at SEO when I was at TUT. And from there, I met a series of people who introduced me to some other guys, and I started playing with them. And from there, I met other people. And each one was, I think, for me, valuable. Each one was a beautiful opportunity, because I just enjoyed being in it. I wasn't feeling like this is a stepping stone. I was feeling like this is what I'm doing. And that's how I feel about everything. It's like, this is what I'm doing. It's like the last thing I'm going to do for me. And so it's been, and then I met David D, and then I met Keke, and then I met Ney. Around that time, I also met Dumi. I met Brilliant at school, by the way. We studied together. So all these things are all circumstantial. Met Ney with Dumi, and then met Bishop Benjamin, and then I was in Spirit of Praise, and then it's
Here you are today.
It's a series of circumstances.
Was it difficult for you to leave full-time IT and focus on music, or you are still doing IT?
It wasn't difficult to leave IT because I don't like it.
Why did you study it if you don't like it?
It was the only course that was available when I got there. I came late, everything was full. And they said, IT and HR are still taking people. And so my brother did IT, and I was like, I think I'll try that one instead. And so I found myself there. I didn't leave IT for music. I left it because it was annoying for me. So it wasn't a hard decision to make. It's like, yeah.
So if it wasn't for music, what would you be doing today? I mean, you don't like IT. What did you want to study?
I didn't have a plan. So, yeah, which is the other major limitation about me. I'm not a planner because I discovered very early in life, and I don't know why or how, but I discovered that God has a tendency of taking me to places I didn't know existed. So it's almost a fruitless exercise to try and plan 5 years ahead because I have no idea what's happening 4 months from now. In fact, I have no clue what's happening tomorrow. Most of us, our lives can change completely. Like we could walk out of here and you could get a single phone call that could set you up in an entirely different direction in your life. A single event can push you in the complete opposite direction of what you thought you could do. You could meet one individual, and for the better and for the worse. That's the tricky part. It's like you can meet one person that makes you better, or one person that makes you completely worse, and you don't know the difference when you meet them, and that's the crazy part. So it's a fun exercise. It's really a fun exercise to be like, in 5 years' time, this is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be crushing it.
Basically, you don't have a 5-year plan.
I don't have a 2 days plan. So 5 years feels like a stretch.
Do you think there's this thing of coincidence or inakwamudi?
No, I believe in sovereignty. I'm a strong believer in the sovereignty of God. So I think if you look at history overall, and you look at how things were contingent on each other to bring out the plan of God, and not just that, but you look at your daily life and just a simple thing like how we met. You could have said it's coincidental 3 years ago. Maybe it was circumstantial because I happened to be passing where you were, but it's not. If it was, why does it matter? Why are we here? Why are we having this conversation? It's like, I think there's someone who calls it, there's a master of ceremonies.
Master of ceremonies.
That's always fabricating circumstances to ensure that some people connect and some people don't. Yeah, you walk into an environment and there's countless people you could meet, but for whatever reason, you walked into an environment and one of them became your friends and the others didn't. Is it because the other was more suited? I don't think so. I think it was all within a sculptured plan of God to bring out His sovereign plan.
You are a total different man. I think when they say we are all unique, you need to always check how you do it, how unique you are. You are also a producer.
Yes.
Before you could talk about that, which one do you prefer?
Between what and what?
Being on the stage playing or just behind the scene producing? I know, like, especially now, people like being on board, you can also produce when you are done, being the MD and all that. But then if it was up to you,
I like creating music. The how is not, I'm not very particular about it. So if it's writing a song, or if it's writing additional lyrics to someone's song, or if it's somebody sending me a song and I arrange it, or if it's me playing a song so that it sounds better for them and they kind of see it in a new light, whichever role you give me, if it's within the umbrella of creating music, I'm generally happy. So the particulars of, am I the one producing, or am I the music director, or am I the piano player, or am I the songwriter, don't really,
doesn't matter that much for you.
it's
As
I'm
long as
easy.
it's music.
Yeah, I just love creating music. So it's hard to say which one it is.
You've played with the legends, you've played with big names, you have produced for big names, but one can also say, like, we even see in those albums which are small, if I can put it that way, small artist. I'm sorry to say that, but I hope none will take offense about that. But if you allow me, you also work with those upcoming artists. How do you choose to work on a project? What is your method about that?
Initially, it was not methodical. Initially, it was just availability. Like I'm saying, I just love creating music. So whenever I have an invitation that involves creating music, I'm usually interested. But over time, because obviously not having enough time to do everything that everybody invites you to, for the most part, I'm drawn to people's hearts. And I'm drawn to people's ministries more than anything. So if it's like here, me being here, it's being drawn to, like you were telling me, at the heart of it, you are thinking from a ministry point of view. You look at preachers, musicians, and everybody else as a collective that has one fundamental, there's one fundamental goal we are pushing, and that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so if that's at the heart of your thinking, if the first thing you're thinking about is not views, and the first thing you're thinking about is not merchandising and how much you can monetize on this, if the first thing you're thinking about is gospel, I'm interested. So that's how lately I tend to find myself in just very different projects. And sometimes you end up, for sometimes, you find yourself finding more fulfillment in the seemingly small upcoming productions, because most of them, and this is not to say the ones that are doing well have been, but most of them that are starting up have not been tainted by the desire to make money, because they have not made money. They don't know what it's like to be paid 200,000 rands for a 45-minute set. Yeah, they don't know what it's like to collect 800,000 rands in royalties for a song. So their heart is purely interested in the gospel of Christ. And those, for the most part, is what ends up being more exciting for me to do. But like I said, this is not to imply that people who are doing well are centrally motivated by money. It's just that some of them are. It's hard not to be when you've made that kind of money.
And another thing, like you just spoke about royalties, we see people crying out on Facebook these days, like people are eating our money, people don't want to give us royalties. Do you always advise people that you work with, or those maybe will be producing their album, do you give them the background of music, or you are just there to do your gig and that's it?
No, I don't necessarily give them background, but most of the people I work with are not signing deals with companies, so it's hard for them to
find themselves.
So I'm either working with the company itself, or I'm working with an independent artist who's trying to push their own stuff. And in those cases, the need for conversations about royalties is not as great as when you have an independent trying to sign with a company. So I'm always in one of the two.
Okay.
It's either I'm working with like a well-established production house, like your Spirit of Praise, or anybody who's in that kind of movement.
Spirit of Music,
Spirit Music. So they've been discussing royalties, they've been collecting. So it's not the type of people who can show up and be like, you don't expect to see Benjamin Dube showing up and being like, royalties.
No, come on.
Yeah, he knows the conversation. So I can't even tell him about royalties. He knows royalties. And then on the other end, I'll probably be working with people like
Brilliant or Busi.
Yeah, so Brilliant is running everything in-house.
He's independent.
His own production. He's not signing any contracts with production houses or anything. So again, the need for the conversation around royalties is not as pressing. But also I find that people are now more aware and interested in it.
They are woke.
So people are going out and finding out those conversations. I mean, I get random, for the most part, I know in the past couple of weeks, I was doing some rehearsals, and I get random conversations or questions from vocalists who have been asking me about things relating to Samuro and songwriting and all those things. Like, people are now interested and
Okay.
people are asking the right questions. And if they are asking, we are always happy to answer.
Before you can talk a little bit about Samro, since well you mentioned it, what do you think is best, being independent or being signed? Like from your own opinion, I mean, you have worked into such space.
It's not a simple either or kind of conversation. It depends on the circumstances surrounding whatever it is you're trying to take off the ground. If you're going to do a project by yourself and you're not signed and you're independent, you are basically you are the artist, you are the executive producer, you are the one funding the production, you're the sponsor, you are the marketer. So you're head of
Your
marketing,
PR, everything.
head of PR. So if you have the time to stretch yourself that thin, it's like go ahead.
Okay.
And you have the financial resources to pull that off, again, by all means, do that. If you can, because you kind of, at the end of the day, are trying not to have somebody do for you something you can do for yourself. But also, you are trying to measure if you can do for yourself the same thing at the same extent that somebody else can do it for you. And if you're willing to learn the process. So it's not a simple case. For some people, it really makes sense to just get signed. To have a team of people who are concerned about, oh, by the way, no, you have an interview. Your flight is at 10 a.m. You're going to Cape Town for that interview. It's like some people
nice.
need that.
But then I think like people tend just to sign without reading the contract.
Yes, they do. And it's again, it's not a simple case of saying they're idiots. It's because of the structure of how things have been done over time. But also, it's because of the minor sacrifices you're willing to make for the bigger picture. So people who have signed away a big chunk of their production, not all of them were unaware. Some of them were genuinely aware of what they were giving up.
Okay.
But it's the idea that says sometimes you could be holding on to the production, but you can't do anything for it. But if you gave it to that person who's going to basically rob you daylight,
Yeah.
but they're going to put you at a place where you have exposure to some things that you didn't have. So you are always trying to manage a bad decision and a worst one, and you never sure which one is the best or the worst. It's not choosing between good or bad, it's choosing between worse and worst, and the clarity is very complicated.
Okay.
So it's tricky. People will keep signing bad contracts, by the way.
Yeah.
No matter how much you speak about it, no matter how much you educate them, people will keep signing bad contracts because bad contracts come with a couple of other perks.
A lot of zeros.
Not just the zeros. Look, there's a simple thing. It's just that it's a bit unfortunate now. Music has closed it.
Yeah.
But
Distributors.
yeah. but here's a scenario that was happening. When music was attempting to restructure how they were approaching their sales, they started selling stalls within their shop. So you can as a distributor, you can buy a section where all your content sits there.
Okay.
So now, if you are a Universal Music, you obviously have deep pockets.
You have
you
deep,
yeah,
like.
you can buy a huge section
Yeah.
of all the musicians in the country. Which then means if I sign with Universal Records, the accessibility of my work
Will be
goes a lot higher. Whereas if I would show up with an independent distributor who's going to put my product in the same shop, it might not be at the best possible place visibly, and it might not reach the whole nation. So you're already at a back foot purely because you are signed within a space where you have a limitation. And so those are part of the things that lead people to signing bad contracts. It's like most people have signed bad contracts and it worked out for them, and others have signed bad contracts and it didn't work out for them. Because the other trick, I'm speaking too much, but the other tricky
No,
part
continue.
the other tricky part is with music, you don't know how much of a lifespan you have. It's like this idea, example I heard about it's an economics idea. The law of diminishing marginal utility, something like that.
Okay.
Economists would correct me. So essentially, they give you a simple example. It's like, so you're measuring value from utility, from functionality. So if I ask you, what's more important, a bottle of water or a diamond? If I gave you the choice, you're probably going to choose a diamond, right?
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But now, if I put you in a desert for 3 days without water, and I said, and there's still like 1,000 kilometers worth of desert before you eat anything. Do you want water or a diamond? You probably are going to choose water. And then they further stretch it and say, what if we put you in a desert and you were thirsty? And we said, water, I'm offering you a bottle of water or a diamond, but for every 2 kilometers, you're going to meet somebody who's going to give you the same offer for about 20 kilometers. So there's about 10 stations, basically, of people with the exact same offer.
Water and
Or a
diamond.
diamond. So the first stall you get to, you're probably going to choose water. And maybe even the second one, because it's just a bottle. But once you get to the third one, your choices are different. You probably are going to start collecting diamonds. And that's the idea of why people sign bad contracts. It's like, it's utility. It's if you sign with a simple thing. Spirit of Praise has now about over 500,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel. We're not even going to talk about the influence they have with other platforms.
Yes.
Just on YouTube alone. So, if they took your project and
put
just
it there.
uploaded a video of it on their channel, it's like there's about 500,000 people who are getting notifications that there's a song you've uploaded, and that already tips it kind of creates a variance in how you think about their platform. And that's why people will keep signing bad contracts. It's because they are not simply bad. They are bad in some ways. So anyway.
Yeah. You mentioned Samro earlier on. Maybe someone doesn't know what happens or what is Samro. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm not best suited to talk about Samro, but I can just give you
The knowledge that you have.
idea of what it is. So Samro is a collection agency. So what happens is when composers do music, so when you write a song, there's lyrics and there's melody. So there's composition and there's authorship. The authorship is the lyrics, the composition is the music. So when you put that together, you have a song, right? So the idea is in principle, whenever that song plays on a public distribution, whoever is playing it should, in principle, pay a percentage to someone, a certain amount. So in principle, even churches, when they sing a song, they should actually pay some. In principle.
But they are not.
Yeah, that's why actually Hillsong doesn't invite guest artists, because Hillsong pays royalties.
Yeah, they do their own music and stuff.
Yeah, but they pay the royalties obviously to their own music, so because they understand the copyright law. But in principle, if you have a birthday party and you play a song I wrote, you are supposed to pay something for it because you're playing it in a public environment. But anyway, in our context right now, it's mainly obviously the radios and the TVs that are playing. So radio and TV then, Samro collects. It's a collection agency. Collects all that money from all.
Do they collect for them or for the artist?
For the artists. So they collect it and put it in as a repository, and then you, who has registered your song with them, and all your details from the collections based on where you played, they pay you based on how much you played in those platforms that actually pay. So it's like a very oversimplified explanation of what Samro is.
Yeah. Moving along, we are still here with Ntate Joseph Makola. In terms of choosing the band, I mean, as an MD, I want to record 50K. That's my budget.
My God.
There's a 50K on the table or 500K. And then the artist just explained to you what he wants or what she wants, how do you go on about taking that project or work with that team? And how do you go on about selecting your band? In most cases, we've seen you with the Tabete and Morolo, but then recently you have been there alone, and then you will see maybe Ishmael, and we'll also see Peter on drums, and there's also Divine there. I don't know what's the connection, but he's always there whenever you are playing.
Not always, mostly. Like I was trying to say, it's multiple layers that govern a decision.
Okay.
So essentially, you think about the cost that goes into the production. You think about the production timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the sound that you're trying to produce.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the majority decision-making element.
Mm-hmm.
The sound you're going to get, because some things come naturally to some people.
Mm.
So even though when we do this, you end up learning to figure out how to do a lot of stuff, but some things just come naturally to some people.
Okay.
Like there's even when you think about it, if you listen to the type of things I do, you would probably hear that some things come naturally to me. It's like when you hear a song, like there's a friend of mine who has a project out, a beautiful project, and there's just one song in the project, and she said, every time I hear it, I wonder how you would have played it, because it's like it probably would come naturally to me, and that's the idea. It's like when you're thinking about sound, you try to find the people, even though almost anybody who's industry level can play everything, but there are some things that just come naturally to some people. So that's one of the reasons, and whether it's 50K or 500K, that also is a guiding principle. So it's an availability.
Yeah.
We can't deny availability. You are checking the work energy you have with people. That's why sometimes you like you said, you see a lot of Divine in most of the things. He's not always there, but for the most part you will see him, because there's a continuity in how we think.
Yeah,
how
and
we
also
work.
Peter there.
Yeah,
on
and
drums.
with Peter, I mean, when I do a production with Peter, even when I do the pre-production, I never put drums there. I just send it to him, and when we get there, he's just gonna play.
Yeah.
And when he plays, it's just gonna make sense.
Wow.
Like I didn't think of it that way, but that's
he
exactly
done.
what we want. And those are some of the things. Like immediately, creatively, you've really just cut out a lot. But also, the need for variation is also very important for me personally, because one of the things I know about me creatively is that I'm not very creative. Like my creative window is probably this big. But the cool thing about working with different people is that you can reuse ideas, but they will sound differently because they are interpreted by different people.
Okay.
So your creative limitations are not immediately obvious to everybody. Of course, to people with a very high level critical ear, they'll probably be like, this guy sounds the same. And for the rest of the people, they're probably thinking, wow, this guy is amazing. This project sounds different than that. It's like, it's the personality you use. It creates a variation. So it's multiple reasons, basically.
This was a great chat. Kilebogile, my brother. Kilebogile. I definitely think we need a part 2 of this. I definitely think we need to meet up again. So we'll meet again. We'll organize something. We'll arrange something anytime soon, part 2, because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to learn. Bagaetsho ko gae re lebogile. Re lebogetse nako ya lona until re kopana gape. Ke mosimane ga Matlapane, ke mosimane go Taung. Ke re a e komakome bagaetsho.